Hi everyone, I'm Crystal from DP Selezioni, and today I'm going to talk to you about one of Italy's most extraordinary regions, Valtellina. So some of you might be thinking, Valtellina, okay, where's that? Well, get my map here. Valtellina is the northernmost grape-growing region in Italy. So here you have the boot of Italy, and if you look up at the top here, you see this red bits up here on the border of Switzerland. So that's the location of Valtellina. And when I mentioned extraordinary, it is extraordinary beautiful. I highly recommend a visit when all of this COVID madness is over. So if you can see this okay, you'll notice there's just these lovely terraces sweeping down the mountainside. So sweeping down from Switzerland into the valley towards moving south towards the valley. And you know, it's beautiful and it's quite an extraordinary thing to see when you visit. But at the same time, it's incredibly challenging. So if you look at how steep these terraces are, when I say these terraces, you see, if you look closely, you can see these stony walls, and that's really what's holding up these vineyards. So when you're actually working in the vineyards, it's frightfully challenging, not just because it's steep, but whenever there's a lot of rain or if there's a landslide, you basically have to go pick up the rocks, build the wall again, put the vineyard back where it used to be, and then start again. So it's a serious labor of love. So much so that over the past century, there's been so many winemakers and grape growers who have just abandoned their vineyards because it's too much work. On the positive side, there's been a resurgence in the last 15, 20 years of the younger generation, whether it be the winemakers' sons or daughters, or whether it be a new surge of winemakers, first generation winemakers that are interested in their take on Valtellina. One thing that makes Valtellina a little bit easier to understand than a lot of other areas of Italy is we're primarily talking about one grape here, and that's Nebbiolo. Locally, it's referred to as Chiavanesca. So similarly, in the northern part of Piedmont, you might hear Nebbiolo referred to as Spanna. There's different dialects and different names for the grape, and yes, it is a slightly different clone than what you'll find in Barolo and Barbaresco, but it is Nebbiolo through and through. There are those telltale rose and wild strawberry notes that we all love. We have Sandro Fay. So Sandro Fay is the father, and we're going to talk about Marco Fay. So Sandro was really the one who started kind of the old guard, kind of more traditional in his winemaking and just his thought process with Valtellina. And Marco, his son, grew up in the vineyards, grew up in the winery. So this is in his blood. And rather than just immediately follow in his father's footsteps, he thought, what's the future? How could we do this better? How he really took a big step in deciding what does well at what elevation and what types of bottlings and what kind of approachability are we looking at Nebbiolo planted at 250 meters or 450 meters or 600 meters or 800 meters. And it's fascinating. So if you have the chance to meet him, he would love to talk you through all of this. Telling you a little bit about him. In my opinion, I think everybody wants to be a bit like Marco. Marco's just one of these guys. He's charming, he's talented, he's kind, he's very articulate, he's very well spoken, he gets excited about talking about his wine, about his family, about his region, he's polite. I mean, he was probably prom king. If they have, homecoming or prom in Valtellina, which I'm not sure if they do or not, but he would probably be voted prom king. Definitely one of the most popular. So here's Marco. And he's actually a very good friend of Pier Paolo and Davide, who I just introduced you to. Here's a more playful side. So he's there in the middle. Extremely passionate, very hardworking, but when you meet him, it's almost like there's not a care in the world, there's not a stress in the world. And his wines are gorgeous. They're all about finesse. They're all about elegance. This one is actually my favorite bottling. Well, there's not really a favorite one. One of my favorites, but this one I can drink anytime. So this is one of his single vineyards. So you see here Valtellina Superiore, so same as the Di Rupi. And Sicella is just the area that it comes from, and Iglicine is the name of the vineyard. So this is a single vineyard Nebbiolo, and Iglicine means wisteria, which our garden has these beautiful, beautiful purple wisteria, which have just come out and they're absolutely stunning. So, and this one specifically, I find is one of the most elegant, the most feminine of his lineup. But it's just so beautiful. And one thing I love about these wines is you can open them now and get so much drinking satisfaction, or you can wait 5, 10, 15, 20 years in a great vintage. Here we are looking at 16, very strong vintage. I would say 10 plus easily. It's just if you have the patience, really. That's the challenge there. So I would say Marco is definitely someone who not only just focuses on how he can do things better, but wants to elevate the region as a whole. So he's always willing to lend a hand. He collaborates with many other wine producers, and he's just someone that you just want to be friends with.